Welcome! Here is the Easy Quilting Drunkards Path and 5-point star template. If you are looking for an interesting design and some interesting techniques, look no further. This will give you tremendous potential for playing around with the Drunkards Path or indeed the clamshell part of the template or making something like a 5-point star. When you get your templates, you will find on the back of it there are instructions on the cutting and the placement, particularly of the 5-point star. But let me show you how easy it is to make the first part of the template, the Drunkards Path or the clamshell. There are two parts to this template. There is the L-shaped piece, which we have here, and there is indeed the arc-shaped piece. Interesting little point to note that I've got a little red mark on mine. Templates are very popular, and you might want to consider marking your templates so you don't lose them when you go to class. Some form of nail varnish is not a bad idea. Put a bit on the template and you'll know it's yours. Then it won't walk. Why not try it? I'm going to use the arc first. So I've cut myself a strip of fabric a little bit wider than the arc. Take the arc, take the strip of fabric, place the arc onto the material. And if you bring the arced edge to the corners of the fabric, if it's a nice right angle, you have no need to trim it. But if not, just trim it back so you have a nice neat right angle to the edge of the shape. So cut along there and cut up the edge. Any rotary cutter will do it. You might want to use the 45mm, you might want to use your 60, or you might want to use your little 28mm one. Having cut round the two sides, just discard any excess material. Turn the fabric round because you always want to try and cut away from you, and simply cut round the arc. So the arc shape can be cut out, and for each of the Drunkards Path pieces you'll need one arc shape and one L shape. The L-shaped one will require a 6.5-inch strip of fabric, and of course that is very easy to cut because it's exactly the width of your 6.5-inch easy rule ruler. Whether you've got the 24-inch one or whether you've got the 13-inch one, they are exactly the right width. So having cut a 6.5-inch strip of fabric, take the template, place the template onto the material. Bring it up to the edge and trim any selvage off. Now notice how beautifully it fits that wonderful strip. Turn the fabric round because you don't want to try cutting towards yourself. You always want to try cutting away. Reposition the template. Now if you find the template slides at all, you would find useful the clear fabric grabbers. These are excellent for putting on the back of the templates and stopping them from sliding. Guard off the rotary cutter, cut up the edge, and you will find you can easily cut round that arc with your 45mm or indeed your 28mm rotary cutter. To put the two pieces together, you're going to take both the arc shape and the L shape. What I like to do is to mark the middle. So I fold it in half. Take a small pair of sharp scissors and make a little tiny weeny nick when you fold it in half. So just want a little nick there. Do the same thing on the arc shape. Fold that in half, line up the raw edges and make a little tiny weeny nick. Just a tiny one. Make certain the nick is no bigger than about 1/8 of an inch. To put the design together, if you take the arc shape, take the L-shaped piece, line up the little nicks. The flower head pins from Easy Quilting are absolutely brilliant for keeping the things together. So put one pin in the middle to hold that. Turn it round. Line it up on the other end, making sure it is absolutely dead straight. Put a pin in it. Turn it round to the other side, line it up so that this flat edge is a level with the outside edge of the arc shape. Put a pin in it. I like to have my pins in with the pin head sticking out on the diagonal. So like it's on the diagonal, on the arc of the section. Fiddle it round again a little bit more and make it all fit. And then you'll need 1/5 pin in between. So just ease the fabrics round so all the layers are nice and level. Keeping your pins sticking out like this on the arced edge makes it very simple when you come to sew round. You now sew round the arced edge using perhaps a 1/4 inch seam allowance by hand, or you can use a 1/4 inch seam allowance on the machine. When you've sewn round the arced edge, it's going to look something like this. Once you've stitched, remove your pins, take them out, open it out, and you will end up with a perfect square. It's a square that's 6.5 inches from raw edge to raw edge. Now, suppose you were to make, and if I just find my ones under here, 4 of these, you have potential for play. So here are 4 of them. When it comes to your seams, I would suggest you press your seams towards the L-shaped section. It lies a little flatter if you do that. This is one of the few times when I don't open my seams. I press them both in the same direction. So I could put these shapes together. Let me move these pieces out of the way. 4 of them could be put together to make a design like this. So you could have that. You could turn one inwards and the other one inwards. You could have them all going inwards, making a circle. You could have them, if you made more of them, going in a wibbly-wobbly line all the way across a piece of work. And that is why it's called the Drunkard's Path, because it wibbly-wobblies one from one side to the other. You could take 2 of these sections and put them together, making that sort of a shape, and they would make an interesting section as an add-on for a border. And if you stitch 2 of these squares together, when finished, they will measure 12 inches. So you can do lots of easy calculations because it's a nice, easy block to do your calculations with. Now, in addition to the template, if you see here, look, if you continued that, you could go on with a wiggle and wiggle your way all around your quilt. Not only do with this packet of templates do you get the Drunkard's Path, or indeed the clamshell, and let me just show you the clamshell. The clamshell is done by taking 2 pieces like that, and then you'll need to change the colour and use this would be as a pink and that would be as a pink. Can you now see the clamshell shape coming out at you? So you have the Drunkard's Path and the clamshell, but you've also got the 5-point star. Now I've used the 5-point star in the centre of this little quilt, and here is the 5-point star. It fits in exactly with the L-shaped templates. Round the outside of this little quilt I've got the Drunkard's Path pieces here, and indeed on the corners. You could take the 5-point star if you liked and just use it perhaps as a cushion cover, and here we have the 5-point star done as a cushion cover. It's an interesting design that just can be appliqued to any particular block, or it can be pieced in with the L-shaped section. If you look at the small quilt that I have here, here we have the 5-point star that's been pieced in. And there it is, pieced onto a block, and there I've got a nice quilt block to add to my small sampler quilt. So how do we make the 5-point star? The 5-point star is done with the remaining sets of templates in your block kit. Let me move that out of the way there. So you have 2 more templates that are here. The 5-point star, they're clearly labelled. They are a wedge-shaped section and indeed an arc-shaped section. Now there are instructions on the back of the packet as to how you piece this together, but it is not difficult to do as long as you are careful with your piecing. To make the star itself, you're going to need 5 from this particular template. So simply lay the template on the fabric and cut round. If you're careful, you can cut one out one way and one out the other way. So you're going to need 5 of these shapes. You'll need 5 of the arc shapes. How the design goes together is you take 1, 2 of the wedge shapes and they get stitched together, but there's a little but about it. When you come to sew them together, you want to start in a little bit. I'm sewing the short sides together and sew down to the end, so you leave a little gap. It is quite useful to mark the seams. It's a bit like it is in fact doing a Y seam. So sew 2 together. We're then going to take one of the arc-shaped sections and insert it. This is how you would make the Y-shaped seam. So if you take the arc-shaped section and insert it, lay it on there. Going to stitch it together, working from the little point out where I started my stitching last time, right to the very edge, and sew to the very edge. So it's going to look something like this when you've done it. Starting there and sewing to the very edge. I've inserted one side of the arc, swing it round and sew the next side of the arc in. So align all the raw edges and sew up along there. You'll end up with a section that looks like this. Having done that, take more pieces and you're going to repeat more pieces, make exactly the same piece, but this time add the 5th part of the star on, so you have a section like that. Into this little gap, you insert yet another yellow piece, exactly the same technique, put the raw edges together, start from the center, and so out, stop on the stitching line. Twiddle it round so you end up with a piece with those set in, and it's going to look something like this when you've done it. There we go. You then start to put the block together. So that bit will fit in there, this piece will fit in there, that little piece will fit in there. They all get joined together with every junction being this Y seam. You can see the Y seam. When you've joined the entire thing together, give it a very good press and it's going to come up looking something like this. This then can either be applied onto a plain piece of fabric, a square, cut a square out, perhaps using the 12.5-inch easy quilting square, stitch it round on the edge there, and then to get rid of the raw edge, you could literally take some bias binding, which you cut with the 45-degree line on your ruler, put the bias binding round the edge, sew it all the way on, flip it back, and you will get a beautifully bound edge. So the Drunkards Path and 5-point star template gives you the potential for 2 completely different designs, which if you like can be combined together, as we have on this, could be used as a border, could be used as a block for a quilt or a cushion cover. This set of templates has tremendous potential for design and innovation with your colour.